Iran says some progress has been reached in talks with the U.S., but a deal is not imminent.
Foreign Ministry spokesman Ismail Bakai's remarks came after US Secretary of State Marco Rubio said an agreement could possibly be reached on Monday. It is correct to say that we have reached a conclusion on a large portion of the issues under discussion, Bakai said in Tehran on Monday, but to say that this means the signing of an agreement is imminent. No one can make such a claim. The Memorandum of Understanding reportedly involves a 60-day ceasefire extension, reopening the Strait of Hormuz, and a plan for further negotiations over Iran's nuclear program. At the weekend, President Donald Trump suggested the sides were closing a deal, even though he later said he had instructed negotiators not to rush into one. On Monday, Rubio told reporters in the Indian capital, Delhi, "We thought we might have some news last night, maybe today," cautioning, "I wouldn't read too much into it." Rubio said, "It takes a little while to hear back from Iran."
CBS News, the BBC's U.S. partner,
has reported that U.S. intelligence believes Iran's Supreme Leader Mojtaba Khamenei, who was injured in an Israeli strike on the first day of the war which killed his father and predecessor, is holed up in an undisclosed location, making communication with his envoys difficult and therefore delaying pace of talks with the U.S. According to U.S. media, the mooted deal is not a final settlement. Instead, it leaves some of the thorniest issues to be negotiated later, including the scope and timing of Iranian sanctions relief, the release of frozen Iranian funds, and Washington's demands for Iran to curb its nuclear ambitions. So we have what I think is a pretty solid thing on the table in terms of their ability to open up the straits, he said, referring to the Strait of Hormuz, the crucial waterway where 20% of the world's oil and liquefied natural gas passes and which Iran has been blocking. Oil prices fell sharply and Asian stock markets rose on Monday on hopes of an agreement. Oil prices slide on hopes of US-Iran peace deal. Why and how is US blockading Iranian ports in Strait of Hormuz? The reported deal has split Trump's Republicans, with some publicly arguing it is too lenient on Iran. Senator Ted Cruz said it would be a disastrous mistake, while Roger Wicker, who chairs the Senate Armed Services Committee, said a 60-day ceasefire would mean everything accomplished by Operation Epic Fury would be for naught. Senator Lindsey Graham, who is a close Trump ally, also criticized any deal that would leave Iran perceived as being a dominant force in the region. "It makes one wonder why the war started to begin with," he said. Trump responded by dismissing his critics as losers and saying the deal with Iran will either be a great and meaningful one, or there will be no deal. Even in a best-case scenario, the effects of a deal are unlikely to be seen right away. It could be months before the shipping industry will be able to go back to supply chains that are physically in the same shape as they were before the crisis. Lars Jensen, chief executive of Vespucci Maritime and former director of shipping company Maersk, told BBC Radio 4's Today program, should a deal between Iran and the US be announced in the coming days, the industry would still remain cautious and hesitant to make any major operational changes, Jensen explained.